All right, Eiyuden Chronicles. Now, here's a game that I want to play. For those that don't know, and I'm guessing that's all of you, I'm a huge fan of JRPGs. Have been ever since Chrono Trigger. That was the first game that really pulled me into that world, and I got obsessed and sucked into every other JRPG that I can get my hands on pretty much since. There are a few that have stood out throughout those years. Chrono Trigger obviously being one of them. Phantasy Star 4 on the Genesis being another. Lufia and Lufia 2. Lunar, not Silver Star, Eternal Blue. Although Silver Star wasn't bad. I liked Eternal Blue a lot more. You know, and you know, a bunch on the PlayStation, obviously, but none come close to usurping the throne for the JRPG that, in my mind, reigns supreme. And that JRPG series is Suikoden. I love Suikoden. I love it with a passion. I've played 1, 2, 3, and 5 to death. I've played Suikoden Tactics twice. I played through it twice. I like that game a lot too. I like all, not all, but most strategy RPGs, most J strategy RPGs I love. And that game was a great one too. Suikoden 4, that's a hard one for me to get into. I've never beat, it's the only Suikoden game I haven't beaten. It's a tough one for me to get into. And I really want to put that on my list for something to complete one day. There are some things about it I liked, but it's too different. I don't like change. But all the other ones I absolutely loved. And one thing, and I haven't played Suikoden T-Chris on the DS, I believe. But one thing that really bummed me out was, so after, it was somewhere in the middle of Suikoden 3's development, the original creator of the series, I believe his name, I think it's right here actually, Yoshitaka Murayama, he bolted. He left Konami. And I feel like Suikoden 4's weirdness was a function of not having his direction. Suikoden 5 kind of returned to form, but I feel like that game was more of like a, hey, let's go back to what worked well for us and just try to mimic that. And it is good. It's a good mimicking of it. It doesn't quite have the same level of personality that 1 and 2 have, but it's still a really good game. But yeah, it wasn't quite the same. And then, of course, Konami just let the series languish and rot and die. And it's such a great series. It's a lot of weebs have compared it to Game of Thrones, and I don't think that's an inappropriate comparison at all. It's an incredibly geopolitically complex game. And the cool thing about it is all of the games take place in the same world, roughly around the same time frame. Suikoden 4 takes place hundreds of years prior to all the other ones, so that's the only one that's a little bit out of step, but it's still in the same world. All of the other games, Suikoden 2 is like 10 years or so after Suikoden 1. Suikoden 5 is, I think, 15 years before Suikoden 1, so it's the prequel, and then 4 is like the prequel to the prequel. But another cool thing about all of that connectivity timeline-wise is that in most JRPGs, you have the entire breadth of the world to really discover. You know, you walk from here, you walk from one country to the other country to the other country, and walk back to this country, and then you teleport to another country, and then you unlock the airship or something to that effect, or the tank or whatever. And then you can just fly all over the world at your own discretion, and it really shrinks the world and makes it feel like a toy, like a little G.I. Joe, you know, play set that you put your action figures in, rather than like a fully realized world. And that's not Suikoden at all. Suikoden feels like an actual world, and it's a largely undiscovered one. The first Suikoden takes place in the Scarlet Moon Empire, which, as a result of the events that wrap up that game, ends up becoming the Toran Republic is what it becomes. So throughout that game, you're only traveling in those areas. You only travel within the kingdom or within the empire of the Scarlet Moon Empire. Towards the end of the game, you actually you travel to the border with the city-state, the Joustin city-state. You don't really get a sense of what's going on over there. Like, they know that there is a civil war happening in the Scarlet Moon Empire, and like some of their soldiers come down to the border, and you know there's a little bit of a dust up there. But the only insight you get in that game to the city state is that you know they're on the other side of that border, and they're not too keen on that war crossing that border, which is cool because like it makes you wonder. It implants that seed of wonder in your mind. Like, what's the city state? What's that all about? Like, what are they doing over there? Like, what is it like over there? Like, I want to go. I want to go to the city state, see what it's like. But it's not part of the game. It's just kind of references to you that there's just another country over there. They're doing their own thing, which is life. You know, that's real life. Like, there are countries all around us that none of us ever travel to, and they're all doing their own thing, and we all only vaguely understand. At best, we vaguely understand what's going on in those other places. Suikoden 2 takes place in the city-states, though. Like, that's the main setting. And you get to understand what's happening there. You understand the political dynamic there. And there's a point in it where you actually travel to the former Scarlet Moon Empire. And you get to see what they became after they abolished their monarchy. It's kind of cool. And then you go back into your realm and you deal with your own issue. So Suikoden 2 isn't a civil war. It's about a conflict between the city-states, the jousted city-states, and the Highland Kingdom. And you understand a little bit of that. You kind of get a little bit of that vibe too. Like you never really go into the Highland Kingdom until like the very end. And at the very end, you only go to like I think 2 towns in the Highland Kingdom, and then like their main castle. So by the time, the entire time, you're kind of wondering what's going on in the Highland Kingdom. And then by the time you get to the Highland Kingdom at the very end, you start talking to some of the NPCs. You kind of get a little hint on the other side of the equation, and it's kind of a neat thing. Like, oh, this is a fully realized world with like geopolitical implications that affect these people, these NPCs that are living in this world. And it's a really cool kind of thing to feel, because like again, most other JRPGs, you don't get that sense at all. Like an NPC in one part of the world is just the same as the NPC in another part. Maybe like the dialogue might have a little bit of an affect on it to like signify cultural difference, but for the most part, because you're traveling instantaneously between all these places, and like the concept of territorial borders is incredibly vague at best in a lot of these games, like Final Fantasy 3/6. If you tried to tell me what the borders of any of those countries were, if there were any other countries other than just the Empire, I forget the name of that empire, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I know that Sion's country was wiped out when they were poisoned by Kefka, but I don't know what country that was, or what the borders of that country look like, or what the dynamic between them and their neighboring countries. None of that. It's all super vague. And it was never the point of that game, so that's not any kind of slam on that. But because it was made more explicit point for the Suikoden series, it made the world feel like 10,000 times more real and more fleshed out. Like there's more history and more world building that makes the consequences of the story feel heavier. And Suikoden 3 takes place sometime, I can't get the number, I can't get the dates exactly right. I want to say 20 to 30 years after Suikoden 2. And it takes place in the grasslands. And again, in Suikoden 2, the grasslands only kind of play, you never go there, but there are some characters from the grasslands that show up. And you understand them to be from the grasslands, but you don't really know what that is. Like, there's no like exposition dump to tell you that there's some like untamed territory out there where a loose confederation of tribes, you know, all kind of self-governed and blah blah blah. Like none of that's explained to you. You're just chilling out, and then an assassin from the tribe lands, you know, from the grasslands come, you know, and you know that character is actually in Suikoden 3. She plays a pretty prominent role. But yeah, it takes place primarily in the grasslands, in between Zexen, and I think Zexen is referenced in Suikoden 2. I think Venet del Zexe is referenced in Suikoden 2, but I don't think anybody from there. Maybe there is a character that's from there. Yeah, yeah. I think the item, the guy who you can recruit to sell, who sells you either items or he sells you armor or something like that. I think his name is Hans. I know so much about these games. I think his name is Hans or something like that. I think he is from Venedal Zexe. I'm gonna check my work. Yeah, this guy, Hans. Hans is an armor vendor from Zexen Confederacy. Yes. Yes. Damn, I'm good with Suikoden. Terrible with everything else. Hans is an armor vendor from Zexen Confederacy. He was looking for a place to establish. No, but I was right. I was right. And I'm happy about that. That's one of the few things I can lay a claim to. Is knowing a lot about Suikoden 2. Yeah, at some point he was born in Zexen and his family wasn't exactly rich. He had just enough money to get himself established here in the city-state of Joustin. That guy saved up a hell of a lot of money. I have no idea where he's hiding it all, though. Yeah, I think at some point he says he's from Venedal Zexe. But yeah, so like you get like this character and then that reference in Suikoden 2, but you have no fucking idea what that means. Like you're like what? Zexen? What is that? What the fuck is Zexen? But in Suikoden 2, you actually go to Venedal Zexe, you actually interact with, the Zexen Knights and all that kind of stuff. In addition to the Grasslands, and in addition to the Holy Harmonian Empire. And the Holy Harmonian Empire also, is it Holy Harmonia or Harmonia Holy Empire? Either way, they also have a little guest appearance in Suikoden 2. You're in a battle with the Highland Kingdom, and the thing you need to know about the Highland Kingdom, and it's very lightly touched upon in Suikoden 2, is that the Highland Kingdom is an offshoot from the Holy Harmonian Empire. What had happened was there was some character who, I believe he saved the Holy Harmonian Emperor long ago, something like that, and as a reward, the Emperor bestowed upon him the True Beast Rune. I guess I missed over a very important component of the Suikoden series. They all revolve around true runes. There are, I believe, I don't even know how many, 24, 37. There's some amount of true runes, and these runes are like little artifacts that you can attach to your body, or they choose you, and they give you an incredible magic ability. Like the True Fire Rune gives you like a, you're like Elsa, except for instead of ice, it's fire. In True Water, you're basically Elsa. And True Wind, you control wind at that level, and True Earth, you control Earth at that level. And then there are all sorts of other weird esoteric ones, like the Soul Eater, which is the main rune from Suikoden 1, which allows you to, so long as you don't use most of these runes, like when you have a true rune, it grants you immortality. But like the Soul Eater is a cursed rune that causes you to, it'll eventually consume the souls of those closest to you, your loved ones. So people who have the Soul Eater usually live in isolation somewhere because they don't want, to grow attached to someone and then their rune kills them. Ted starts off as the wielder of the Soul Rune in Suikoden 1. He's also in Suikoden 4, which takes place hundreds of years before Suikoden 1, so he's had that rune for a long time. And then in Suikoden 2, the true rune is actually split into two. One is the Bright Shield Rune, and that's the rune that the main character gets. The other is the Dark Sword Rune. That's the rune the main antagonist gets. They're forced... It's the battle between the sword and the shield, offense and defense, the immovable object and the unstoppable force. And then that's kind of at the root of the story of Suikoden 2, clashing those two characters together. So, true rune, and then there are also lesser runes that you could use to apply to anyone and give them some limited amount of magic ability. So, yeah, the Holy Harmonian Emperor gave that dude, he gave him the True Beast Rune, which is like a really, really awful cursed rune. And he gave him a plot of land and granted him his own kingdom, basically, and he was the first. I forget his name. Was he's the first blight, the first king of the Highland Kingdom, and that's how that kingdom was established. And they're established on the power of the Beast Rune, basically, and so Harmonia and Highland have a close relation, but the High Priest Asari from the Holy Harmonian Empire he comes down when you're engaged in a battle with who are you fighting? Maybe you are fighting Highland. You just get like a little. They make a brief appearance on the battlefield, and then they bolt. And then, like, if you don't know any of that shit I just told you, you're like, who the fuck was that? Holy Harmonia, what the fuck? Where are they at? Where are those guys at? So it feeds you with that same little nugget of information that leaves you wondering, like, what's going on over there? Well, in Suikoden 3, you actually get more of Holy Harmonia and their story. So you get a lot of that in that one, too. Suikoden 4, couldn't tell you if I tried. They're all in the island nations, though, and some of that comes back in Suikoden 5. There's like Opal and some other places whose names I forget, but I really couldn't tell you that much. Suikoden 5, again, 15 years or so before Suikoden 1, takes place in the Kingdom of Falena, or the Queendom of Falena, rather, and it does the same thing. Like, there's New Army's Empire, and then they're off to the right, I believe, and then there's some other place that I'm blanking on that. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can pull up. Okay, this is a good one. So yeah, like I started this off with, I guess I could have just started with the map, but this Tauren Republic in Suikoden 1, it starts off as the Scarlet Moon Empire. And then this is the city-state, Subjoustin. It starts off, it's referenced in Suikoden 1 as the city-states. Starts off in Suikoden 2 as the city-states of Joustin. Ends up being the Dunnen Republic. You get a little bit of Tinto in Suikoden 2, and they come back, a couple of characters from that comes back in Suikoden 3. In Suikoden 3, you get the grasslands here. You get the grasslands here, and that's primarily where this takes place. But you also have the Zexan Confederacy, and you do go to Venet del Zexe, and you go to this part of Harmonia. You see this little line. This was annexed by the Holy Harmonian Kingdom. So this used to be all the Buke and Caleria, this all used to be part of the grasslands. That's why it says right here, Harmonia occupied grasslands. So it's still kind of like a disputed area, but it's Holy Harmonian territory. I missed out on something. Highland Kingdom used to be around here. Where is it's the Highland border, Tilden, East High East. This might have been the capital of the Highland Kingdom right here. But again, at the end of Suikoden, all of that just becomes the Dunnen Republic. Tinto is still their own thing. So that's Suikoden 1, Suikoden 2, Suikoden 3. Kanakan. So Kanakan is an island that's referenced in all of them. It's known for having incredibly strong boos and for having a swordsmaster who trains like all of the world's best swordsmen. Some of my favorite characters are students of that. I think his name is Rounder Haya. Yeah. The master of the Falcon style fencing, Roundir Haya, has achieved great fame for his technique and famous fencing form. Many of Rounder Haya's students have achieved great fame in different countries, including Anita, love her, Belkut, my absolute favorite, and Valeria. She's cool too, but Belkut's my favorite. Upon the completion of their training, each of his students is gifted with a falcon rune as proof of their mastery. Despite the relative fame of his students, information on Rounder Hayab remains largely unknown other than the falcon-style fencing in his residency in the country of Kanakan. I've always wanted to go to Kanakan. It's one of those things where they plant the seed in your brain and you're like, ooh, what's going on over there? Like, because there's like Valeria's in Suikoden 1 and 2, Belkut's in Suikoden 5, Anita's in Suikoden 2. I think there's one in Suikoden 3 as well. Oh, I guess there isn't one in Suikoden 3. Just 1, 2, Valeria in 1, Anita and Valeria in 2, Kika in 4, and Belkut in 5. Huh, okay, so I guess 3 doesn't have a student of his. Okay. Down here is Suikoden 4, and I don't know shit about any of these places. I mean, I guess the cool thing about 4 is, like, traveling from place to place, you're on the sea, and there's a lot of sea battles, and you're just kind of, you know, an ocean-faring, you know, ship, which is cool. It's a neat new concept that hasn't really been done in JRPGs before, absent Skies of Arcadia, where you're just a ship in the air. But instead of, you know, walking around from place to place, like in these ones, you're just on a ship. But that kind of makes it tough. And it's like 3D, you know. It makes it tough for me to get my bearings on where I'm at, where I'm going. A bunch of the islands all look the same. So, like, it's different. Like, the map remains stationary in these other games. So it's easy to understand, okay, I'm walking to the southeast, I'm going to Lemire, I'm going to Scarlicia, or I'm going up here. You know, you have a better sense of geography than when you're out on the open sea spinning around in circles. And I think it's because of that I just really couldn't get into it. Gaian Dukedom is referenced, but I don't think you ever really go there, aside from, you know, this place. They get referenced, I think, in 5 as well. This is where Suikoden 5 takes place, the Queendom of Felina. And if you notice, it's like way to the south of all this other shit. Like, they don't really have much to do with all of the geopolitical ongoings in the rest of the world. Like, the Island Nations Federations, they kind of get mixed up in some shit with the Kuluk Empire. Like, they're the Kuluk Empire, or I think they're main adversaries in that one. But I really couldn't tell you more beyond that. And I don't know that much about the Kuluk Empire. Most of their ongoings, most of their doings is in Suikoden 4. I don't believe they get referenced in any of the other Suikoden games. But Felina does have some dealings with the island nations. They have pretty good trade relationships, and the at the start of Suikoden 5, the king of Suikoden, who's kind of not really a figurehead position, but it is a queendom, so the queen has the power. But the king of Felina is he's from the island nations. He is a descendant of the island nations. And that causes some problems. He's an outsider, but, you know, he's well beloved. Nagaria Theocracy, that's who it is. They get a little bit of a reference, the Nagaria Theocracy, but New Army's kingdom really is the one that kind of plays more of the role. This is a civil war going on in Suikoden 5, and the main character is the prince. So he, as this is a matriarchy, he's destined for no power. He's just a figurehead. His sister, his younger sister, is the one destined for the power. And, you know, I'm not going to spoil too much, but I will spoil this because it happens pretty close to the beginning of the game. So the queen has, I don't think it's a true rune. She has the sun rune. I don't know if the sun rune is a true rune. I did not anticipate talking about Suikoden this much, I gotta tell you. But once you get me going, man, I'll fucking go. Okay, it is. The sun rune is one of the 27 true runes. Wait, but I thought, like, the dawn rune and the twilight rune, I thought the dawn and twilight rune combined with the sun rune to create the true rune. The fuck is the dawn and twilight rune's purpose then? The sun rune has a special relationship with the dawn rune and the twilight rune. Left to its own devices, the sun rune is not but a weapon, capable of toppling the most powerful of nations when it takes its toll on its bearer. Yes, the queen is currently the bearer. The sun rune is driving her insane. Without those runes, the bearer of the Sun rune will have illusions of grandeur, start to think they are themselves the god or divine judges, and risk on harming their own loved ones and lands in fits of rage. However, with input from the Dawn rune and Twilight rune, the rune can become merciful and can nurture life rather than destroy it, and the user isn't affected by the rune's collateral influences on their psyche. That's a spoiler there. Thank you for the spoiler. Okay. Ironically, the Sun rune has a design that combines the Moon rune, the rune of the beginning, and the Star rune. Anyway, so Queen's going crazy because of the Sun rune. She inadvertently kills the king. Once she realizes what she's done, she's like grief-stricken, and then in that moment of intense grief, she completely abandons her grasp on her humanity and decides to just kill everyone in the kingdom. And before she can get to that point, one of my favorite characters in all of the Suikoden series, he's in this game and he's in Suikoden 2, George Prime, fucking takes her out, kills her. He gets framed for assassinating the queen, because this all takes place during a coup. It's a coup attempt. And as the queen is fending off her attempted coups, she loses her shit. So with George being framed, the prince is also being framed. They're saying that he was in on the coup when it wasn't him at all, of course. And then they flee, and then as a part of their flight, they want to not only so the prince flees, but his sister, his younger sister, the one who actually has the power now that her mom is dead, she's kidnapped by the actual coup attempters, and she is being installed as like essentially a figurehead ruler to the puppet masters who orchestrated the coup. So the civil war begins when the prince, he spirits away to the north woods of Lunar, and he's just trying to get away from soldiers that are pursuing him because the coup guys don't want him around at all. But what ends up happening is their ruthless pursuit of him puts the coup people's political adversaries here in Rainwall in a position to where they go out, they send their soldiers out to secure the safety of the prince so that they can use the prince to foment a rebellion against their political adversaries, much the same way that those guys are using the queen to kind of consolidate their fascist agenda. So it's a real power dynamic between the prince being used by these guys and the queen or the princess being used by these guys. So the princess and the prince are put on opposite sides of one another, and it splits the country in two. And I mean, it's a great story. It's a fantastic story. The people who align themselves with the prince and convince him that it is his duty to bring justice to the people that cooed his family out of power and killed his whatever. The people that are convincing the prince to take up the rebellious arms go behind his back and create a pact with the New Marmese kingdom, and these are hated adversaries of the Queendom of Falena. So that they would do that in exchange, they were going to give him some land. They were going to annex some land for New Armies in exchange for, using quantities of their army to take out, the strongholds that the Coors had around this area, Fort Hatred and whatnot. But that plot was unearthed by the prince, and the prince realized that, his allies were not only untrustworthy, but traitors. So that's when they split off on their own, etc., etc. It's a great story. You should definitely play it. But yeah, that's Suikoden in a nutshell. All of that, you see what it takes to get me going on Suikoden. All of that brings me to Eiyuden Chronicles. Eiyuden Chronicles is a Kickstarter game started by the creator of the Suikoden series, and it's largely being seen as the spiritual successor to Suikoden. This is why I'm amped for this game. And I had to explain all of that to you guys so that you could understand why I'm amped about this game. It's not very often that I'm excited about games, but you know, this one did it. So I haven't watched this yet, but let's watch this. Let's see what's going on. I'm amped about it. Oh, I guess this little gameplay demo is in Japanese, huh? I mean, it looks neat. It looks...
So this is an actual gameplay footage. Murayama-san, this is really beautiful, the graphics. Yeah, thank you. It's so-called 2.5D. So in the Eiyuden Chronicle, it has dotted characters, it's 2D, it's very playable, and in addition to that, we also have the cutting-edge graphic technologies fused. So that's the idea we had.
I love that. I love that. That's another big part of the Suikoden games. Are the characters. Like, that is the part of the Suikoden game. There's so much about this game series. I'm dropping on the floor. So the point of the Suikoden game, Suikoden itself is a name that is derived from a Chinese novel, The Battle of the Bandits of the Water Marsh, the 108 Stars of the Water Marsh, or something like that. Let me actually get the actual name so I don't fuck this up. Water Margin is a 14th century Chinese novel attributed to Shi Nai. I'm gonna mess up every Chinese name. It is also translated as Outlaws of the Marsh and All Men Are Brothers. So this is what Suikoden is based off of. The story, set in the closing years of the Northern Song Dynasty, tells of how a group of 108 outlaws gather at Mount Liang to form a sizable army before they are eventually granted amnesty by the government and sent on campaigns to resist foreign invaders and suppress rebel forces. So this is a part that is the main draw of Suikoden. In the Suikoden games, you can recruit 108 characters, and they're called the Stars of Destiny. And usually there is a story component to it too. Usually there's a character that, you know, perishes as a part of the plot, and you have an opportunity to revive them if you manage to recruit all 108 characters by a particular plot point of the game. But because there are 108 characters, there are 108 really cool, radically different personalities and character designs and art styles and whatnot. And that's one thing that I love about the games. The characters are all so wild and like really cool personalities. You can, like, a lot of them are playable. Some of them aren't. Some of them are just people that hang out around your headquarters. But some of them you put in your party, you can level them up and equip them and, you know, use them in combat. They have like, they'll have partner attacks with other random characters that they can do, and it's really cool. Some of the characters are human, some are dwarves, some are elves, some are kobolds, and some of the kobolds in this game are they're dogmen. Like they look like dogs. They either look like a bipedal Shiba Inu or a bipedal Rottweiler, or, you know, whatever. So, and I love the kobolds because of that. But there are also cat people. They're in those are introduced, I think, in Suikoden 4. There are the Duck Tribe. They're basically Howard the Ducks, and I love those guys. Sergeant Joe. They're introduced in Suikoden 3. The Lizardmen, also in Suikoden 3. Those are both tribes of the Grasslands, the Duck Tribe and the Lizardmen. The cat people. Am I missing something? Kobolds, elves, dwarves. I don't think I might be missing something, but I don't think I am. So I am, because of that, I love all of those like animal type characters. That's what makes me happy to see this kangaroo guy. Look at him. This dude is a fucking beast, dude. Look at him. He's got like the broad shoulders. He's got like the eye patch. Like it's not like even a formal eye patch. It's like a makeshift eye patch. He's not a fucking poser. He doesn't have the time to go buy an eye patch. He's just gonna get a piece of cloth, throw it over his wounded eye, and then he's got the fucking Dragon Slayer. He's got the Berserk sword, dude. And he's just hoisting it over his shoulder with his gloved kangaroo hand. And look at that, he even has the pouch. He even has the little pouch here too. Oh man, I love that. I love the kangaroo guy. The sworded kangaroo. That is peak Suikoden.
Chronicle, and we wanted to incorporate that in Rising as well to create the beautiful graphics. That's what we asked Natsume-san to do, which is now under development. And Suzuki-san, Kawano-san, what do you think? Any comments? What were the challenges in the development? Well, you know, on PC, Steam, and for PlayStation 5, we really enjoy the production for the graphics, so we don't really think they were challengers, but of course it was hard. And we also try to make it with a lot of action elements so that people can enjoy.
It's a lot more action RPG than I anticipated.
Well, thank you for working hard on the games.
The original Suikodens were all turn-based.
Texture is very detailed. The rocks, the lights are really beautiful. Yeah, my request was make this game beautiful, you know? It's a very simple order, but it's not that easy to respond to.
Yeah, the original
order,
Suikoden
right?
games were turn-based, so
to make it happen,
seeing this level of action is...
a lot of work.
I wasn't anticipating that.
We want to enjoy the process. We also enjoy the process of designing. And we talk about the platform.
Like
the characters, you know, you have a lot of opportunities to shift, to transit the characters. Yes, as action, that we think it's more enjoyable if you can change the characters. But for RPG fans, Rabbit Bear among our staff, some staff say that maybe we can add some action elements to make it more fun. And so we asked Natsume-san to make something that person will like as well, and we also participated as observers to oversee the production.
I don't like this idea
So
that,
we
you know,
have some
turn-based
requests
games
for
can't be
Natsume-san
fun.
for the production. Suzuki-san, what do you think? Yeah, I played the game. It was quite difficult, but still, depending on characters, you can easily change the characters by hitting your console button. So we did a lot of adjustments, so you can be reassured to play it. So even for RPG fans, you don't need to hesitate to play this game. And look at this stage, it's really real. And in the graphics, we have incorporated a lot of action RPG elements.
Yeah, no shit.
There is a character called Isha.
What was that game on the PlayStation 2?
She's a leader of
Valkyrie
town,
Profile?
and your mission is to revitalize that
This kind
town.
of looks like
and
Valkyrie
as a result,
Profile.
your character will get stronger. And the character is going to collect items in a mine. So that's some, background. And that is also something we want to showcase here in this video. The effect is...
I saw them
very cool.
attacking
It's
that thing,
so
and like the health bar didn't move at all. Like, look at the health bar. Oh my god. Oh wait, Rising is the wait a second, what? Oh, I guess I could have read this before I went on my whole spiel, huh? The first extended gameplay footage of Eiyuden Chronicles Rising, an action RPG spin-off of the upcoming title, Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. Okay, so 100 Heroes is probably the more standard turn-based RPG type game, and Rising is the action RPG spin-off. That makes 100% more sense. Okay, well, now I just want to see what fucking... I just want to see what 100 Heroes looks like. Jesus, I couldn't read any of that shit. A brash guard who throws himself into war. Noah, a brash guard who throws himself into war. Kisling? An Imperial officer in pursuit of his vision. Ooh. Oh shit, I didn't know there was gonna be... Marissa, a guardian who watches over the world's secrets. Oh, there's a werewolf guy. Cool. Yeah, this is what I saw before. It looks a lot like Octopath Traveler. Which I'm okay with. Octopath Traveler is a beautiful looking game. Yes! Yes, this is the good stuff. Give me this. Oh, that is so Suikoden. Yes, this is the good stuff. Oh, I'm for it. Damn it, this is the one that's 2023? Well, I guess we're going to be waiting for a while for that one. Although, I'm okay with the kangaroo guy. I want to see the kangaroo guy, too. Oh, man. 2023. God damn, making us wait. It'll be good. It'll be well worth it. It'll be 1,000% worth it. Can't wait. Cannot wait. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked what I said, what Justin said, if you like the content we're providing, if you had any kind of laughs at all, even if you hate us, if you hate my guts, if you want to stab me, if you want to say all sorts of horrible things to me, cool. Like the video, subscribe. You'll get fed all sorts of shit you'll probably hate. And if you like us, you'll get fed all sorts of shit you probably like. So please and thank you.